According to Rolling Stone, the 10th best rap song of all time is Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim. Now listen, the song is not even in my top 10 Eric B. and Rakim songs, but I get their point. It's a very important song. And, the song came out in 1987, and ever since I first heard it, probably pretty soon right after that, I've been fascinated by the ending. Because, it's this whole song, it's about the importance of getting paid. It's one of the first songs to really usher in kind of a bling-bling mentality into mainstream hip-hop and all that. But it ends with this kind of spoken word part where Eric B. and Rakim are having this little conversation. You hear what I'm saying? Just pump up the music and count our money. Yo, check this out. Yo, Eli, turn the bass down and just let that beat keep rocking. And we out of here. But the last words of the song are thus. Yo, what happened to peace? Peace! Now, ever since I first heard that song, it's confused me because I don't know what they mean. What happened to peace? Is this a statement about like the current situation in inner city America? Is it about the way people speak has changed and they used to say peace at the end of every song and now they don't say peace and so they need to say peace? Like, what does it mean? What happened to peace? There's something about that that's just so open to interpretation, so searching, so meaningful. So many times in my life I've just said, yo, what happened to peace? I say all of that as introduction to this new album by Aurora, What Happened to the Heart? Because it's a similar question to me. I read the question, and I've listened to the album many times now, and I sort of get what she's getting at. But what does she really mean? What happened to the heart? Is she talking about the heart of civilization? Is she talking about the heart of humanity? Is it about like our inability to see each other and empathize? Are we lacking compassion? Is that what it's about? Is it about like what's lacking, in the heart? Apparently the whole thing was inspired by a kind of environmental fears. Is this about like the heartbeat of nature and our connection to our bodies and ourselves? Is it some kind of technological fear? Is it just heartbreak? A simple individual story. I love this title for the same reason that I love this album. It seems to ask a lot of those questions. It doesn't really seem to answer them all, but I really enjoy the question. Yo, what happened to the heart? Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's been sitting on this Aurora review for a while. If you don't know, when I first started my channel, I had a lot of trouble getting subscribers. Makes sense. I was new, and my 50 subscriber special was my introduction to Aurora. Her fans have been some of my biggest and most consistent supporters since 2018. But one thing I will say is I haven't always known what to do with her. I think I've now done, 3 or 4? I'll have to make a playlist. 3 or 4 videos about Aurora. And I'm never quite sure what to do with her music or what to do with her. She isn't quite in the kind of pop and diva, hyper pop space. She doesn't quite, I have a hard time placing her, which is perhaps her greatest strength. And I really enjoyed this album, especially around this question of what happened to the heart. It's like a theme album, a concept album, but the concept itself is not particularly formed. It ends up being kind of, Taoist, about the fleeting nature of existence. There's one line that keeps on popping into my head, and that's from the song Woodstock, which was made popular by Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, but it was written by Joni Mitchell. And the lyrics to that are quite famous. We are stardust, we are golden, we are billion-year-old carbon, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. To me, that's sort of the guiding line through this entire album, this idea of us being stardust, which if you've ever taken, astronomy, it turns out it's true. We're all just made up of particles that have existed since creation itself started, right? And we're going to be returned to dust, and then that dust is going to be formed into someone else, or into a styrofoam cup, or into a fish, or whatever, into a poop molecule. Who knows what we're going to become? But this kind of macro vision of existence, the passing nature of our time on Earth, put into this larger cosmic scale, I think really suits this album quite well. And much like the Joni Mitchell song, it's a kind of, this is going to be a weird contradiction of a sentence, but it's like profound, knowing naivete. It's like people who are smart enough to not be naive, but who sing from a position of naivete that borders on deep. A good example from this album is just a lyric I'll pull out of towards the end. We are good people and we deserve peace. It's difficult, it seems. This kind of kumbaya, we are all good, we all deserve to be treated well. Whatever happened to peace? It's difficult, it seems. There's a profundity in that comma. It's difficult, comma, it seems. Because she's hinting at these bigger problems that we have where we're good people, we deserve peace, but we don't quite have it. And it seems like we deserve it, but maybe we don't. Let me give you an example with a more specific song. If you're liking what I'm doing here, smash like bucket, subscribe. If you put in comments AVAA, I will always heart those comments. That means awesome video as always. It's my fun little shorthand of communicating with you. So my example song, if you haven't heard it, I think it's great, is called My Body Is Not Mine. Excellent production. All the way throughout this album, excellent production. What I like about it is that even though, because that's the thing, like I can't really just put her in as like a pop singer. Because like this doesn't have pop format at all. Like there's not really a chorus. There's sort of a bridge, but it leads into a weird kind of outro. There's no real hook. So even though she's like a pretty singer who sings very well and has excellent pop production, it doesn't really feel like that. These great spiritual and mystical lyrics, which I'll get to. Let's get through the music here. It's kind of a semi-industrial style, sort of like a song that gets you kind of psyched up, almost like these real buzzy sounds, which might be, I think, a guitar or maybe a synth. Almost reminds me of sort of didgeridoo. The voice is doing lots of interesting things, almost like little melismatic Middle Eastern trills, but also it resolves a lot. And whenever you have a singer that resolves a lot with kind of a droning undernote, it evokes folk music. It evokes a kind of primal, as I like to call it, pre-industrial sense of music. You may hear my baby downstairs. She's a toddler, so she's just noisy. You're just gonna have to deal with that noise. That's why I'm recording up here in the Gaku and He studios. And what I like about this is, while we have this kind of resolving voice and these lyrics, this whole album, the first 2 times I listened to it, like I barely even took any notes because like I was just kind of in it, I wasn't like analyzing it, I wasn't like trying to figure it out. But then when I go in and I observe it closer, it is really finely wrought. Like this has almost like a dance hall style rhythm in a way to it. And all these crazy layers all over the place. And the way that she changes her delivery in the second verse, which might kind of be a chorus, almost reminds me at times of like Sheena Easton or Sheila E. Come on, feel the beat. Dun, 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 dun. Almost goes there, but not really fully. This beautiful post-chorus, which is a refrain. I don't really know what it is. These lyrics that she says over and over again. This nice kind of like synth sample of the song doing like very rhythmic, very interesting. This trumpet sound, which I think is a trumpet on the keyboard, that's really emphatic and at times like breaks into little tiny solos, and it's a sort of like a loud, aggravating note, which helps to draw your focus when you're focused. The third verse doesn't have any drums at all. It just kind of starts with these synths and eventually some like ethereal choir sounds and goes back to this refrain. And at a certain point, there's like a little change in the drums, and I realized I was trying to define this drum line. Okay, so the first, 2-3 times I listen to the song, I just listen. I'm just chilling. The third time I listen, I'm like, wait a minute. This is a fire style beat. I'm not using the Gen Z slang. I'm saying Fire by Jimi Hendrix, this kind of beat. That little pause, it just for like a little second in there. All this stuff going on, all these layers, all this great production, great vocal production. The bridge becomes like a continuation of the rest, but the guitar gets a little bit louder, and then at least this outro with just these words repeated over and over again. When you need my heart, you cry, you need my body. And then there's a stop, full break. And then a full industrial madness just comes in. It sort of reminds me of like... We want the funk. The end of King Kunta by Kendrick sort of reminds me of Devil in a New Dress by Kanye. I don't know, it reminds me of a lot of stuff here. And then we get to the lyrics. I would stare at the back of my hand for days, reading the wisdom written up for me in my veins. Lots of blood and veins and sowing. There are certain themes that permeate this album: blood, veins, thread, and the next line, if there's a demon in the eye of my soul, I won't be letting you know. Demons, blood, hearts, thread. Okay, it's the main themes that are going through here. Feel no pain, I never cry. I bleed no blood, I'll never die. My body's not mine, body's not mine, body's not mine. I need no body. Maybe the most interesting aspects of this album are questions of the soul. I'm fascinated by the soul, whether or not it exists, and what is it. And I think this is a almost Christian-like theme. I mean, the Christians didn't invent transcendental thought, but the idea that, you know, that this earth is not my home, right? That this is just a place where I am, and my soul belongs up in heaven. My body is not mine. Like, it's not really where I am somewhere else. At least that's how I read it. And the past feels like another life when the story they somehow all survived repeats itself so many times, written cold in blood, heavy as a Bible. And there's always this kind of darkness at the edge where a lot of these, frankly, kind of hippy-dippy themes that seem so pie in the sky and we all deserve peace, there's always these little notes of darkness that come in and just make it a little bit sour, a little bit of sour in the sweet that keeps it from being too naive. That's just one song. That's just one song, and that really shows what Aurora is doing throughout this entire project. And I think it's my favorite Aurora project that I've reviewed. I think so. I was super patronizing, I think, in my second Aurora review. I got a lot of negative comments, and I think I called it like Victoria's Secret music. I don't know. That was a long time ago. Okay, I've grown. And so has she. So I'm going to go through the rest of the album a lot quicker now. Echo of My Shadow, sort of an industrial, kind of folky opening. Great lyrics. All the way throughout, these lyrics are great. Which annoys me because English is not her first language. But Scandinavians, in general, have a very good language learning system. They just really do. In general, Scandinavians' level of English is spectacular. Frustratingly spectacular. If I stay here any longer, I will stay here forever. Interesting theme, right? And the echo of my world will fade. Will the edge of sorrow be gone in the morning? And I like it too because her accent is a little bit stronger in the song. I just keep writing all these lyrics down. I don't even always know why. They're just so good. I just write them down. And then sometimes I'll do that when I do a review. I'll just write the lyrics down. I'll be like, okay, future Skye, what are you going to say about these? If my life is just a moment and this world is ancient, then the light through my window will fade. Young mountains, old rivers, I let them become me right now. We are all stardust, we are all mountains, we are all rivers, all things must pass. Everything. Very, very Taoist, you know? I grew up, my dad was obsessed with collecting rocks with holes in them because he pointed out that proved the Taoist Chinese belief that water was stronger than rocks, right? Because over time, eventually, it'll dissolve parts of the rock. And a lot of this is sort of that basic idea. Delicate sounds in the second verse, and it kind of echoes out. To Be Alright is the next song with these great sweeping synths. More of what I'm used to. This is maybe a little bit more in the previous Aurora style. Drum machines. Again, sort of a cool syncopated drum line here. I know I belong here on earth, but I long to be lifted up. Do you see how thematically similar all these songs are just based on the 3 songs I've talked to you about? My heart does not rhyme. The rhythm of my mind. What is life worth living if you can't dance to anything night after night? Oh, I long to be all right. So on the one hand, this is like a singular anthem about a singular person feeling alienated and like an alien. You ever feel like an alien? You ever this happens to me a lot. Like I at this point actually do it. I actually say to myself, what would a human being do in this situation? But I like the question that she's asking, that, you know, if you have to constantly be there sort of imitating, you know, you belong here and you want to be somewhere else. You want to be in the world of art and creativity and dancing, and that's what it is, and you long to be all right. It's a beautiful lyric. I really enjoy it. In an interview that was quoted in Genius, of all the major chord songs, it fits the album the most. It's the wish to feel better, but using the wrong remedies. One of the last stages before the problem becomes all-consuming. I don't know what that means. Next track is Your Blood. So much blood, so much heart, so much veins. Backwards guitar singing, kind of like a backwards arpeggioed guitar, very breathy singing. Then eventually some kind of boots and cats drums, kind of bringing you in. Nice kind of late 90s feel. Okay, so I know that not all Scandinavian people are the same, but I can't help but draw parallels. This song feels like a Cardigans song. And you're watching somebody who owned the Cardigans album, okay? I didn't just hear the song and just say, oh, that's cool. I owned it. And I understood the Cardigans are just Swedish Black Sabbath. I would be driving in my car, my 1995 Ford Windstar. I would be driving and I'd be listening to the cassette tape and I'd say, these guys are just Black Sabbath, but Swedish. And there was no one to tell. There was no internet. So I just told my friends and they were like, cool, Skye. Anyways, this feels very, very Cardigansy in its production. Very, very cool. Your blood, what matter is it made of? Do you feel it travel in and out of your heart? Needles stitching up the big holes you prepared for battle as you fell apart. The whole idea of like the human heart that constantly needs to be stitched up, and things in our blood and not in our blood, and what is the importance of our blood. And apparently, according to Genius, a lot of the stuff is about Gaza, which I'm going to say none of it's on the nose, but it might be general feelings about the lack of care that most of the world has towards the staggeringly high number of innocent people who are being killed right now. Maybe that's the basic question: what happened to the heart? Because we really should care more, and we should care more in a way that's not like those other people don't care, right? We shouldn't be like taking sides and being like, this means you're this or that means you're that. Like, we should just be like, oh man, there's too many innocent people dying. We gotta stop this. I don't know. I'm not going to solve the Gaza question on a review. Anyways, and it goes to this whole theme of, we are dust, are we dust, are you dust, you are dust, we are stardust, we are golden, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. And it's nice. It's this nice similarity here. The conflict of the mind, sort of a nice kind of da-da opening, some vocal effects later, cool kind of a Casio drum beat, more chill sounds, amazing arpeggio, like the vocal production where like the sound is turning a little sample and like a little arpeggio thing. It's just sort of enraptured by the song. And the theme of the song is one that kills me. This is what she says. There's nothing more painful than seeing the ones I love cry, but at the same time it fills my heart, because it's the greatest feeling in the world to open up and be there for someone if only we were brave enough. And that's the whole point. like emotional intimacy is so crucial. And most of us live our lives with virtually no emotional intimacy at any point in their entire... Like most people, probably in the long scale of history, have like less than 3 or 4 moments of true emotional intimacy in their entire life. And that's based on absolute nothing. I'm just spitting that out my, wrinkle. But I'm just saying, like, it's hard to have emotional vulnerability. So this conflict that she's talking about of seeing someone that she knows crying and feeling bad because they're hurt, but also feeling good because it means that they're opening up to her, like that's like a really good point in the middle of this album. And again, I listened to this album 3 times, 4 times, and just kind of nodded my head on the elliptical while watching, I remember what I was watching. I was watching 3 Days of the Condor. Not at all connected to this album. But just, it's a beautiful idea. It's a really beautiful idea. It's gorgeous. Like, I read my notes, okay? So I type out all these lyrics. I don't know why I typed them out. I'm not going to read them all to you. Only when I see you cry, I feel conflicted in my mind. It fills my heart up and breaks it at the very same time. Great. But then I just wrote, these are my notes, okay? These are my notes. Mr. Professor, Mr. Verbose, Professor Yappenstein. Look at that. Gorgeous. Love it. More voice bits. Wow. Beautiful. So, I point that out to illustrate the success of the beauty of this album. Some Types of Skin is the next song. It's written from the perspective of Buffalo Bill. Not a good joke. I get one joke. It wasn't even good. I don't know. This one's nice. You know, this is the one about we deserve peace. I can't quite figure out if this is like a social justice song. I don't know. There's a way that she sings, my God, it's a lot. And I feel like she's been listening to Japanese Breakfast because this reminds me a lot of the opening track off of Japanese Breakfast. Tangerine Dream. What's the opening track? It's a rush. It's a rush. What is that song called? I could scream and ask my wife down there. She'd know. But then The Essence, kind of intimate guitar, kind of acoustic. Listen. I'm going to just keep comparing this to other stuff because it helps me to think about this music in a different way. I'm not claiming any kind of plagiarism or whatever. It's just the different modes where if I can talk about kind of a Joni Mitchell feel, and I can talk about a Cardigans feel, and then now I'm going to talk about a Billie Eilish feel, which is nice. Acoustic guitar and kind of breathy singing. More kind of spiritually mystic, natural, and as the trees cry their leaves, vulnerable just like me. It's a whole nother theme, vulnerability. You know, the image of the cover is her holding onto a heart, and there's a rawness to it, you know, feeling something that should be protected by your chest cavity. Earthly Delights, more atmosphere here, like almost like Tron style keyboards, and actually reminds me a fair amount of the Fleet Foxes in the harmony. Not the blooping synths, but in the harmony. And then it all sort of came together for me in the way that it is. Their first album, Fleet Fox's first album, if you don't remember, the cover has a Bruegel cover. Okay? Painter from the Netherlands, Northern Renaissance painter. And it's a weird kind of painting, actually. It seems very normal, but when you look at it as like someone like pooping out coins into the water, it's kind of a weird thing. And it seems as though he was inspired by Hieronymus Bosch. The famous painting. You ever see that triptych? You know, like the weird kind of like fish people and people like noses in each other's butts. And even though it's made like in the late 1500s, late 1400s, early 1500s, somewhere around 1490 probably. It's a really weird image. It's like so freaky. There's like a person who's like a tree, and there's people living in the back, and there's like a pair of ears with a knife. I say all that because that painting is called The Garden of Earthly Delights, which, you know, I studied art history in college, and I studied before the internet. So because of that, I never got to see this image. I never went to the Prado in Madrid, where it is. And so I never actually really got a chance to look at this piece up close. It is absolutely freaky. And I think that's what this has to be a reference to. So it's sort of like Fleet Foxes in the harmonies, but it's also kind of like Fleet Foxes in this Northern Renaissance image. First you made me a river, so I should have water. Made for me a garden, so I would have earth. But I'm so lonely, so lonely. So I don't know. I don't know if this is supposed to really be a reference to the Garden of Earthly Delights, but it's called Earthly Delights, and she talks about a garden. So I think maybe it's the idea that the hell that's implied in the third panel of the triptych, the first panel of the triptych is like the Garden of Eden. The middle panel is just like a weird Cronenbergian orgy, and then the third panel is hell. You know, maybe this is about loneliness, that loneliness is the hell, and that what you want is this earthly delights. I don't know. We have to go back to the garden. The dark dresses lightly. Now, okay. This is where I was like, all right. This reminds me of Aurora. This reminds me of the other stuff. It has a little bit more the kind of hunting feel. There's something kind of hunting about her music. I didn't say haunting. I said hunting. Like, it feels like it's kind of badass music. I don't know if just because my image of Norway is just totally influenced by very weird stereotypical images of just beautiful windswept, I don't know, mountains and grasslands. Just the ow makes me feel like we're on that hunt, which then reminded me, it all came together. I was like, okay. I just did my video, my 100,000 subscriber special, where I talked about all the music I listened to as an adult. And I especially talked about how I suffered mid-20s music death, which most people do. They hit around age 25, nothing's good. A few albums popped up, and I did manage to like them in that time. And somehow, I didn't mention in that video, I'd completely forgotten. Look at what I bought in 2014, 4 years before I'd start this channel. I bought Licky Lee. Is that how you pronounce it? Or is it like Licky Lee? I don't know. And I bought this album. I listened to Licky Lee a ton. And I realized I don't know if she's the beginning of this whole school, but I didn't really know how to place her either. It seems like a kind of similar thing. Artisanal, I mean, she's Swedish, not Norwegian. Artisanal, Scandinavian, diva, electro, pop, folk. Let's see if I can say that again. I don't have that on my notes. I already forgot the first word. Oh, artisanal, Scandinavian, female, pop, folk. That's what I felt from listening to Licky Lee. And that was on this song where I realized, oh, that's what it actually reminds me of. I don't know if there's influence there. I don't know. Little details that I imagine you must love. By the way, I've had a lot of people request this review. I do see it. If you are like a longtime viewer of this channel and you've commented a lot and then you say, Skye, how come you haven't reviewed this? Like, I take it seriously. I don't always do it, you know. I might never review Achilles Come Down. Oh my God, I did a whole thing about Achilles and I didn't even, it doesn't matter. You know, I might never review something, but it did matter to me that names that I associate with people who take this channel seriously were all like, what's up? What's Aurora? So here's Aurora. A Soul with No King, going back to the soul thing. I don't like mandolins. I don't like mandolins in rock. I don't like Losing My Religion. I don't like, what was the Led Zeppelin song with mandolins? Was it Achilles' Last Stand? Wait, I gotta look this up. Okay, let me just see if I can just look up Led Zeppelin mandolin song. No, Battle of Evermore. That's what it was. Anyways, in general, I'm not a fan of mandolin in rock, but I do like some guitar in here, which is nice, kind of military snares. Not a military snail. I am going to fight for my country very slowly. You speak like the devil, like he's not your friend. I don't know. It's an interesting idea, all about souls and demons and devils, all in this. It's funny because our last album, I think I referred to as omnimism, like everything matters, the opposite of nihilism. I feel like this is much more focused. This is about the importance of the soul, the importance of nature, and the importance of understanding that your existence is nothing, and also that it's very important that while you are here... Jesus Christ, it's existentialism. Damn it. Because the true existentialism isn't just you're going to die. It's you're going to die, and therefore the only thing you can do of any worth on planet Earth is make important connections to other people. Like empathy is the only thing of importance that you can do on Earth while you're here, because you're going to be born, you're going to die. That's a reading of existentialism. Next song is called Dreams Are My Reality. Nice angelic singing over a guitar. I abandoned your religion and I knew I'd never come back. Interesting idea, kind of moving away from religion. You know, I think this is not a religious album. I think it's a spiritual album. This is... You know those annoying people where you ask them, are you religious? And they're like, no, I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. You know those people? This is an album for those people. You know who used to say that all the time? Thank you. The next song is called My Name. And this is featuring Anne Brun. And this got me going down a rabbit hole because I didn't know who Anne Brun was. Turns out she is a S-A accent aigu M-I singer. I don't know if it's pronounced Sami or Shami. The term that we used to use, which turns out is not politically incorrect, is offensive, is Laplanders. So like the native people who live like way up north there in like Finland and Iceland and Norway. And it turns out other famous people descendant of Samis are Jaco Pastorius, Lance Henriksen, the best B actor of the 20th century, Renee Zellweger, and apparently Joni Mitchell. It all comes full circle. Kind of automated synthesizers, cool thumping rhythms. I was listening to this morning when I serve my daughter muesli and yogurt every morning, and we were listening to this, and she gets excited, and she starts doing this. She starts counting to 4 because I teach her how to count rhythms in music, because I think that's an important thing for kids to do. So she's like, 3, So it's a very nice song there. Cool hook, to be a part of your world. Eventually you'll be eaten by yourself. You will forget I was here. It's an existential rant. Again, like, who am I? Will I still be here? Will I still matter? Next song is not quite in fitting with the rest of the album, Do You Feel? It's more of an 80s feel than a sort of licky-lee kind of feel. But I like the theme. You can give up on me, but never give up on love. That's an empathetic, that's a compassionate thing to say. That's what you should say to anybody. That is what I say. I haven't broken up with many people. I just haven't had that many relationships in my life. But that is the thing that I hope I communicated. That like, hey, this is over, but I really hope that you don't give up. Next song is called Starvation. More military style drums. This is kind of like Bjorky. Wait, did I say that Laplanders were in Iceland? I don't think they're in Iceland. I meant to say Finland. Please. Actually, you know what? You can't get mad at me. I deserve to be mad at that. Finland is not the same thing as Iceland. Do we have to die to see the light? Why do we have to die to see the light? This album is chock full of fun, interesting, challenging questions about existence. If we believe that when you die you see the light, why do you have to die? Why can't you see the light first? Cool kind of dance breakdown. Then we get to the blade, badass sequence drums, descending voices, like almost like kind of rap style at times. I'm not really into that bit. Next track is the track I discussed, My Body Is Not Mine, then ends with Invisible Wounds. Again, feeling kind of Bjorky with the I squeeze into the small hole. But then it sounds to me like a fun kind of ABBA song, but more blood, more veins. It's all Aurora. I might compare this to other stuff, but I look for... Sorry. I think you could sing all these lyrics like you were a Scandinavian death metal band. Okay? I look for blood to shed, mistaking every vein for thread, spreading out to thin, as I lie lying in my bed, barely existing, barely existing, barely existing. But it's great. I really enjoy this. I like this tying everything all together with the veins and the thread and the blood and trying to have some kind of, what happened to the heart. I know the best I can isn't always good enough. I know it hurts to know how I hurt. It hurts to know I hurt you. Like I know it hurts you to know you've hurt me. And now my blood is yours and my life is slowly losing touch. How do we learn to tend to these invisible wounds our homes gave us? All of a sudden tying in the difficulty that you have as an adult with difficulties of childhood, which is the unsatisfying answer to all of your problems. All of your problems are a result of your upbringing. You can go to therapy for 10 years, and at the end of that 10 years, you're going to be looking at the doctor. You're going to be like, Frank, I don't want you to say this is because of my upbringing. I want it to be more interesting. But Frank's going to look at you. It's a gray beard. And he's going to say, I don't know what to tell you, Skye. And then you go, damn it. The invisible wounds our homes gave us. It's great. The difficulty of connecting. What happened to the heart? Like in the end, whatever happened to peace? What happened to the heart? As we have this great la-da-da-da-da outro. Like what happened to it is like, on a personal level, our heart is poorly formed. It's hardly taken care of. We have these invisible wounds, and then we kind of go on and we hurt each other. And then more of a sort of universal way, we fail to understand the fleeting nature of our existence and how we're all connected by this fact that our nature is fleeting. And we don't really connect to each other properly. We don't really see each other properly. In the end, whatever happened to the heart is the same thing that happened to peace. Like they're like these ideals that we want to hold, but that our human weaknesses just tear us away from. That's what I think. These are my Patreons. They help me to buy music and diapers. Having a new baby soon, so it's going to be even harder to record videos. Zach also wanted a shout out on this. I let you do special shout outs. I think I'm also going to shout out the Tottenham Hotspur, the soccer team. That's a shout out for one of the people who always comments that I should be covering Aurora. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna talk about some British rap soon too. Okay. Till next time. There's the camera.